So I want to fill in the blanks here from a video that I did recently about the history of Thriveapeutics. And I wanted to give you a background, my background, on what it was like growing up as me and how this all came to be. And I could see the wisdom in me being the guy to bring this work out. And I guess the best way to explain who I am, who I've been, is to go back into the 60s when I was single digits and mom diagnosed me as being hyperactive. Can't say she was wrong. I've always been juiced, always had a lot of energy. I was always underfoot. I guess that you could look at that as a natural, expression for children, me, But I guess we're just exploring this life and we're doing it as children. But I always noticed that I was annoying to a lot of people. And that's a lot of people. And, get away from me, kid, you bother me. And that was true growing up with family. That was true growing up in school. It was just true. And then it even bled into when I got into chiropractic college, where I've always been part of the warrior class, where it was all about, for me, the philosophy of chiropractic. The power that made the body heals the body. And for whatever reason, that just called to me and spoke to me. And I was an advocate for that. And being how spirited that I've been my whole life, I guess, I put a lot of people off because I've always been spirited. Bottom line was I got into the neurological component of it. I'm still fascinated by neurology. Not from a therapeutic point of view, though, hence that's where the term Thriveapeutic came from. But as a phenomenologist, which I am, somebody who wants to study phenomena, and I don't know if there's anything more worth studying than neurology, or at least the way our understanding of neurology plays a role in our experience of life, our quality of life. And, even in chiropractic college, I was very, very fortunate. I came from a background using a form, an approach of chiropractic that was considered the most conscious. And I would have to agree it was pretty conscious. I mean, it had a lot of the philosophies of chiropractic embedded in it. And it was a pretty large, and probably still is, I've just removed myself, a pretty large group of amazing people who are more conscious, and really living life more mindfully. And I remember even in my first year of practice back in 1993, how involved I was in this system, in this methodology, this approach. And my greatest community came out of that community because, birds of a feather, right, flock together. But even in that community, I was like spirited, as you could imagine, and that energy was still there, get away, kid, you bother me. Now there were some people who could handle me, really can handle my enthusiasm for life, my zest, my passion, and then saying it very animatedly, because I was always very animated. And I do and always have loved, and I've always loved people. And as far as I'm concerned, I can't get close enough to anyone. And that's just, if that's a fault, so be it. But I've always been that way. But that doesn't mean that people are in a place to be able to actually handle me. You could put that in quotes, handle me. And so even in that environment, which was most conscious, I would come up with ideas like, wow, the apex of the kyphotic curve, that's like playing roundabout, if you know that song by Yes, where they got the harmonics. And I was like, wow, the apex of the kyphotic curve is just like the 12th fret on the guitar, and how these harmonics are played. And when you play a harmonic on the 12th fret of the guitar, whatever note is resounding on that on that fret, from that harmonic, from that note, is a reflection of the tone of that string, which in this case would be the tone of the body, the tone of the spine. I remember sharing that with the great grand poobah of this conscious work, and I remember how it wasn't even considered at all. Like literally, if it was considered, it was considered in a millisecond. And even then, I was like, I knew I was onto something. And I still know that this is amazing work. And, the more that this work doesn't engage people, the more I know I'm onto something. The more I know that this is really something that people could use, even if they organically don't move to it, like a moth to a light. But I do know that I could trust my awareness. I could trust what I know to be true. I can trust the scientist in me. And so I actually kind of left that community. And that was a hard thing to do, as you know, because when there's so much love and you're invested in that group of people. But again, to get the feedback that whatever my unique perspectives were, they were just discarded. They were just like, yeah, that's probably the best word, Think of, don't discard me, and it's true that that may be one of my greatest wounds, is it actually blows my mind that I'm disposable, or that these ideas can be just poo-pooed without even consideration. And so that really led me to showing up for people in the way that I've always wanted to be shown up for. I just never thought of myself as somebody who's just an energy seeker, energy hungry, attention grabber, narcissistic. I never really felt that. I was just me. And I watched how people couldn't stop themselves, even professionals, and throwing me under the bus and just writing these awful narratives within themselves about who I am and what my motives were, because I was quite spirited and I loved people. Bottom line was, all of that really literally forced me to develop Catalyst, to develop my own system, my own conscious system. And so I did. And I jumped off of that platform and then just really got honest with myself about what it is that I'm doing, so it wasn't just magical. Like, you don't touch this and I promise this will happen. Trust me. I needed to know the mechanisms. I needed to stumble upon some phenomena, and I did, many. And so I don't know how many people watching this knows that my background was that in that first year of practice, this chiropractor who's been in practice at that time for 15 years, her name is Nancy Davis. She came from Americus, Albany, Georgia, which is 3+ hours away, maybe even 4. And she, came just to get work done, to get a session. And one day she got off the table and she said, I want to be the first person in your class when you're ready to teach this work. And I remembered like it was yesterday that my reaction was like, I'm not teaching this work, and the truth is, what came after was an inquiry that haunts me today in the most loving way. I say haunts, but it's been the greatest gift. And it's, what would I say? What would I say if I were to teach this? And boy, that inquiry and the sincerity of that inquiry, and at the time not knowing what I would say, well, answers just started pouring in, and they're still pouring in today. And so when I did this recent history of Thriveapeutics, it was really emotional for me to watch people talk about the work and to get recognized, I guess is a good way of saying it, watching people recognize how amazing this work is. And truly, and I'll put a link on this video so that you could watch it if you care to, but a dear, dear friend of mine, Dr. Michael Abatanozzi, another chiropractor and guy who earned his diplomate in neurology, has been a great supporter of Thriveapeutics, of this work. And he talks about being amazed at how all of this came from the body work, which it did, because what would I say in teaching Catalyst became Catalyst concepts. Well, we now know them as Thriveapeutic concepts because I went way beyond just addressing the body. And even back in the day when Catalyst was first coming forth and first emerging, it was mind, body, and soul, red, yellow, and blue, in that order, you know? And I've always addressed through the body, through yellow. But the people that studied the work got so much out of it because of the concepts, because of our approach and how respectful it was. Well, that led me to coaching because I had to teach people, not just people who are studying Catalyst, but people who are participants getting on the table to receive Catalyst. I had to teach them about moving toward and the importance about being solution focused. And once I got into education, especially educating people who are interested in learning Catalyst or interested in receiving Catalyst, well, then it really took off because all these concepts that I was using in approaching the body as most respectfully as possible, like welcoming unconditionally and not having an adversarial relationship with what shows up organically, and to be focusing on what works, not what's not working, to be a solution seeker, not a fault finder. And all of those concepts that work and have worked so well for 30 plus years on the body now has some traction and has been working, oh gosh, I guess it's 25, 26 years, 1999, yeah, going on 26 years now, I guess 26 years, on the mind, on our psyche, on our mindset and our energy, and helping people dial into these concepts as participants. And so, I love just rambling about all the different psychotechnologies and approaches and resources that I've developed. It's absolutely a tickle for me to just throw out Greaterness Coaching or Catalyst, but then to go way beyond that and just say, look up Successions. It's amazing. Check out the Guardian Within. Check out the 10 levels of Guardian Mastery. Check out the Succession 7. Check out the 5 phases in Forward Healing. Look at the Human Toolbox and playing with archetypes. And all of this stems from this very rooted foundation in that the body is a receptive-based system that continually adapts to the environment. There's nothing we can do about that. And what you want to do is respect the body and negotiate with the body and find out what it will do. How does it negotiate? How does it adapt? And if I am neurological nutrition, an epigenetic influence, where my energy is a plus and a positive and helping people's bodies and minds become more plastic, more malleable, more negotiable, exhibiting greater levels of neuroplasticity, then I'm doing my job, because the power that made the body heals the body. And as the body becomes more adaptable or malleable, more plastic, then I could trust that whatever the body is doing is perfect, which it always is anyway. But the idea is I'm allowed to support the body's greater plasticity. If the body wants to remain rigid while I'm helping its plasticity, I could trust that. But if the body is able to be released from its recursion, its loop, its neurological trap, well then, if I'm doing this work and it releases and people are really understanding forward healing and emerging on a consistent basis, well then there's nothing better, because I'm meeting the sovereign individual, their body, their uniqueness, their recipe for success. And for years, I have been what I call myself a fat cat. You might have noticed that I've gotten a lot bigger over the years. I've grown quite the Buddha belly. And, where did that come from? Well, I have this concept of working with the unknown face, meaning I don't know who's going to resonate with this work, who's going to show up, who's going to stick. But TBR, to be revealed. I'm willing to discover who that is. And in that process, I let people pre-qualify themselves out of my life or in my life. So I wish I had this information when I was growing up and I was like, get away, kid, you bother me. And realize that they were just not the genuine article to be able to see me and what I was packing. Not that I made it easy on them, to know that I had this passion for helping people enhance their quality of life on an ongoing, continuous basis. Because we're infinite, because there is no ceiling to quality of life improvements, because you can always get better. And I think we're better off attempting to get better using a good infrastructure, a good mindset, that there are no problems, only calls to answer. You can't be broken. You can only manifest results, and those results are perfect and pristine. Even you not liking them or them being uncomfortable is perfect and pristine, but it doesn't ever mean, it never makes it that it's wrong or you're malfunctioning. Now, you could think that you're malfunctioning, and then you'll get the results for thinking that you're malfunctioning. But if you come in with a respectful mindset that everything is happening for a reason, and that you have within your ability to come up with a really good reason, one that is, like we say, swirlful, meaning it's light, it's airy, it can breathe, it honors it, it takes it to its most high, it exalts it. And so if I can usher people to participating in that, and I can, and I have, and I've been doing it for years, and I don't really promote myself aggressively because I have been a fat cat and getting fatter. And yeah, people say, watch your languaging, Dr. Michael. Isn't it fascinating how that works? And I actually am one of these idiots, put that in quotes, that look at the Buddha and his incredible happy face and his smile. He seems like he has discovered bliss. And I'm sitting there going, so I like a piece of cheesecake, shoot me. You know what I'm saying? And so, pleasures of the flesh. And, would I like to be the embodiment of health and looking like, wow, look at that six pack like my son has at 31, and, keep exercising, keep moving, and I do that to a degree. But for the most part, I like being a fat cat getting fatter. I like applying greater and greater awareness to this body of work and creating something even newer than I already have. And I think that there is a lot of utility in that. And again, people who are attracted to it are going to come organically, and people who aren't are going to stay out organically. And they all pre-qualify themselves in or out. And I call that the unknown face, because when I watch somebody who pre-qualifies themselves in, I'm like, oh, it's you. And I remember the first time I ever met this one beautiful, beautiful woman in my practice. She's a practice member. I use the term participant. She's a client, and her name is Bonnie. And I remember she is an elder, and she's wise, and she teaches, oh my God, she does the sacred feminine. She does goddess work and priestess work, and she truly carries this resonance. And she was experiencing the symptoms of being Thriveapeutic deficient, meaning she didn't have this information that I share or this perspective, and she wasn't able to participate in these ideas or these concepts and extrapolate all the benefits in them. And yet she was so wise, and still is incredibly wise. And so, here is this beautiful, beautiful goddess. And, I don't even know if she's 10 years older, whatever it is, 15 years older than me, but clearly somebody that I had great reverence and still do have great reverence for. And seeing and watching somebody to be so wise run to this work and get so much out of this work, that I realized in that moment, my God, it's for you. I've created all this for you. And there was no denying that, because she was going to this work. We call it the dry sponge phenomenon. She was so, with all her enlightened qualities, she was so brittle and fragile to life and to the catastrophes of life and the oi of life, that she wasn't able to really honor the wisdom of what she was experiencing, even though she dialed so many women up to the sacred feminine. She dialed people into the divine. And here I am, this worldly, incredible woman, and supporting her. And I'm like, my God, I've been given this work for you. Like she was an unknown face. And so we still have one of the most amazing love affairs ever. And it's a very spiritual love. It's just as high as it can go. And I have that with a bunch of people who have pre-qualified themselves in. And I love it. And it's enough. It holds me and it keeps me moving forward. I want to serve even better for these people who put their trust in me. And I do have to take care of my little corner of the world, whoever pre-qualifies themselves in, and to respect those who pre-qualify themselves out, that I'm just not right for them, or at least right now. It's not their time, or I'm just not a resource that represents or supports their recipe for success. The integrity of their process would have it be that it's not time to explore the depth of this work. But I think it is for a lot of people. So you may see me now getting out there just a little more, not because I'm looking for attention or recognition. Not that that sucks, but I'm at the point in my life now where I actually have to refuse acknowledgement, and it's where I am because I have to stay true to being a true scientist, question everything, be so super, super skeptical, be super pessimistic, even of my own agendas, and, don't trust myself. And I can then become more trustworthy. Just all I have, don't say I'm trustworthy, because then whatever degrees of untrustworthiness that I'm packing will clearly take over and, consume me. But if I stay humble and say, look, I know what God knows what's in my heart. I know what I've been committing to my whole life. I know I'm sincere about studying this work and sharing this work. I know there's a reason why my practice is called Living Well Education. I know that my work is all about educating people. And still, after all these years, I'm still a chiropractor. I'm never going to stop being a chiropractor. I'm still going to deliver Catalyst bodywork. I just finished a session before starting this video. I love the bodywork. I love getting to know you, getting to know all about you, and being in the inquiry of what can I do to serve this beautiful individual who many people do not see, and if they do see, they treat them as broken. Him, her, whatever. So anyway, that's, I think, I wanted to follow up on that video, and I think that's a good summary. Don't throw people under the bus just because they annoy you or just because they're animated. I'm saying that from personal experience. I've given so many people so many opportunities to do me better than they have in the past, and to watch the people who are unable to really do me well and receive me well and receive me in the Most High. And I'm not looking for that because I'm a narcissist. I'm looking for that because we thrive in that under those conditions, in that rich environment. And so I provide that. I'm getting a call. I must answer the call. Create a great